I think it's probably about time to bring back Zack Ryder or Matt Cardona. I mean, you'd call him Zack Ryder because that's what WWE would do. I'm not saying that he has to be there for the long haul, though I'd quite like it. I think he'd fit in very, very well these days because he gets it. But if we are talking about people that we haven't brought back and that would get easy pops in a Royal Rumble, I mean, it should be Matt Cardona, Zack Ryder. I think Chris Jericho will be in it. I think that's how I'll rephrase that. I think he will, if he does come back to WWE, that's how you'll re-debut him. But you need more surprises than just one, or at least I like 2 to 3, maybe even 4 if you can squeeze it in. And Zack Ryder these days, or Matt Cardona again, whatever, I don't know what you call him, wrestlers and the funny name associations, he does kind of have legendary status because we probably wouldn't be sat here right now if for what he hadn't have done in 2011, where he did take the wrestling YouTube game and totally changed it and opened all of these doors. Of course, that doesn't mean that he should go back to WWE, but I just kind of think he should have a proper run there. And if it doesn't work, who cares? You throw stuff at the wall and see what sticks. I mean, it worked for Carlito and it worked for somebody else did this recently. Who the flub was it? I can't remember, but somebody I never expected to see back. It doesn't matter, but there was a second person. And, you know, I see no reason. I love Carlito too, but I kind of feel like there was an era where people sort of really sided with Zack Ryder. Again, when they were in Madison Square Garden, wherever it was, and they chanted for Zack Ryder over The Rock, which is totally crazy. So I would like to see it. I think you get a massive response. And I think you could probably, after that, use him as a heel as well, like a proper shib-eating grin heel, or all the stuff he's been doing on the indies. Because some people say that, well, he needs the indie king or whatever gimmick to make it work. I disagree. I think if you called Zack Ryder, you could bring a lot of his Matt Cardona stuff. Obviously, he's got years and years of extra experience. He still looks great. And I think, I assume he comes out to One Radio, because you want the pop, right? And people know that music. But I really think it would be cool. And he's busted his ass so much. Plus, I think he's a nice guy, which I shouldn't say I've ruined his gimmick. But I do. And I think that, given how wishy-washy the first run was, by no fault of his own, put him in the Royal Rumble. See what happens. Warm and fuzz in your tum-tum moments. And again, if it doesn't work out, you go back to the indie scenes and keep kicking ass. I would like to see it. He did the stuff in NXT recently through TNA. Is that correct? I don't know if that is correct. But I'm going to throw Zack Ryder out there. Or it could be a Chris Masters as well. But again, these are too early predictions, and I'll probably just predict this every year until I'm dead, which is a very depressing way to end this video. I shouldn't have said it, and I'm sorry.
My way too early prediction for the 2026 Royal Rumble, and call me a dreamer here, is it's actually good. We were talking in the office about, because we're going to hear from loads of people that we'd like to see in the Rumble, but I think I just overall want the thing to get better, and considering the state of wrestling right now, please, like, I hope that they look, you know, I know the weird Nielsen ratings thing is what it is, but maybe that's the kick up the arse that WWE needs to make a good Royal Rumble again. The last good one was what, 2020 we were saying, basically? Come on, it's been 6 years. Like, and it's not like they haven't got the personnel to do it, it's just every year it's a bit, like the last 10 minutes or so generally is pretty good, but beyond that it's like, you've got 60 people, what are we doing? And you look at the lineup they could potentially have for next year's Rumble, and it's an embarrassment of riches now, granted, it's a Saudi Rumble, but putting that to one side, you look at potential winners on the men's side of things, and it has to be, for me personally, between Sami Zayn, that's my pick, or CM Punk probably. So either of them coming close and then having to go to Elimination Chamber, that's a good story to tell. However you feel about Brock Lesnar, you sense that maybe the Rumble's going to be used to set up a feud with Gunther. That could be fun in there as well. You could bring in like the likes of Obafemi from NXT and introduce him to the main roster personnel and what have you. You could have another spot where Bron Breakker kills a celebrity. Hey, the Rumble's like, what, a week before the Super Bowl? Let's get Bad Bunny back in there. On the women's side of things, potential Liv Morgan return. I don't know what her status is, but that would be huge. Finally, we can put AJ Lee in a Rumble thumbnail and it actually makes sense for once. Have Jordan Grace go on another run. The unpredictability of the Women's Royal Rumble, because generally we go in and go, it's probably going to be your Charlotte Flairs, your Becky Lynches or whatever. I think you can kind of rule both of them out for next year's Rumble in terms of winners. But beyond that, like Bianca Belair, I don't know, or just a complete surprise, like a Blake Monroe or someone like that coming in and winning it. This will be, I think, AJ Styles' last Rumble, 10 years since he debuted, make something of that. And then, Hamlet's not going to like this, you've got the ability to pick up people from other promotions and put them in there, like you had with Joe Hendry. Mr. Iguana could be in the Rumble. You know, other people might like that. Other people really might quite like the Iconics being in the Rumble, for example.
Who might that be?
I could dream Or, as I say, every single year, please just put Scotty 2 Hotty in one more Rumble. That's all I want to see. But yeah, I think generally you can hear a lot of names being mentioned that I would love to see in the Rumble. I just hope the 2 Rumbles next year are good.
Going for a pretty obvious one here for my Royal Rumble prediction that's a bit too early. Chris Jericho, baby. I think he's coming back. It just seems like all the stars are perfectly aligned for this, right? We've not seen him in AEW for months. We haven't seen any reports of him being brought back. He's on social media liking things that are a bit teasy, but he might just be working to us marks. Who the hell knows? It's entirely possible. And with his contract set to expire at the end of the year, I think that he will walk back into WWE almost immediately after that. And I think the Royal Rumble is the perfect place to pull that kind of return, obviously, given the event and its reputation for surprises. How's that run going to go? I have no idea. Could be good, could be lame. Does he have one last reinvention left in him? We'll see. I've learned to never bet against Chris Jericho in that regard throughout his career, but the past couple of years haven't brought the bulk of his most acclaimed work. I think it's fair to say. And yeah, it's actually quite funny because his last proper on WWE appearance as a live performer was at the greatest Royal Rumble in Saudi Arabia. So now 8-9 years later, we're going along and he's back in Saudi Arabia in a Royal Rumble. It's kind of perfect in a way. It's like a full circle moment across the board. What does Chris Jericho have to offer WWE in 2026? I don't know, man. We'll find out. But look, he was a huge name for AEW. It was a huge coup for them to pick up as they were launching. And I will not have any of this revisionist history about the guy either. Le Champion was tremendous. He's had various highlights throughout his AEW career and raised various people up around him as well. Yes, he's had feuds that weren't so good and dragged on, and he probably did more harm to Eddie Kingston and Daniel Garcia and a few others than he did good at the end of the day. But there were some real early strengths in there, and WWE will definitely see bringing him back as a coup. I think that the historically quite tenuous relationship between him and Triple H is a fascinating backstage thing to consider in 2026, and I'm actually looking forward to that more than anything else. Give me the chaos, baby. But yeah, Chris Jericho's going to be in the Rumble, man, and there's nothing you can do to stop it, except if it doesn't happen, then I just look like a tit.
In my mind, do you know what I think is going to happen? I think that Cody Rhodes is going to join the 3 Rumble win club. Yeah, it's a very special club. It's a club that's, only got one member right now. It's Stone Cold Steve Austin. And let me explain, obviously, hear me out. How is this going to happen? Cody Rhodes is currently the WWE champion. He can't be in the Royal Rumble, can he? I mean, it has happened before, but that's not what's going to happen this time, in my mind. No. Instead, Cody and kind of Drew are feuding right now, in time of recording. I think that Drew is going to win that belt, possibly at Survivor Series or whenever that match gets announced. It probably has been announced already by the time this drops, knowing my luck. But I think Drew is going to win the belt there. I think it's about damn time he got his hands on a world title for a decent spell for a little bit. I think he'll be a really good cocky prick heel WWE champion, smarmy and I told you so, told you I'd win the belt from Cody. Man, I think it'd be good for a couple of months, on the way to WrestleMania. We'll give him that belt. That looks good. We'll have Drew with that. So that will obviously mean that Cody, in order to reclaim a world title, maybe that world title, but maybe a different world title, he'll need to win the Royal Rumble, obviously. So he will enter the Royal Rumble. He will win it, but he'll win it by dumping out Randy Orton at the end. That's going to be a big thing, and Orton's going to be looking at him I was fighting Drew in your honor and whatever, and you just dumped me out of the Royal Rumble, Cody Rhodes. And then that blood feud will finally kick off in a way, and it can kick off in a number of different ways in my mind. It can either kick off and lead to a 3-way maybe at WrestleMania between Cody and Randy and Drew. WWE love the 3-ways, don't they? We saw that this year at this WrestleMania. That's one option for the WWE title. Or you could do Cody versus Orton at the Elimination Chamber in the big blood feud match, kind of like we saw with Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, what they did this year. They had that epic blood feud blow-off thing just before WrestleMania even happened. That happened there at the Chamber, so maybe you do that with Cody and Randy after Cody dumps Randy out of the Royal Rumble right at the end. That could be an option, and then Cody then goes on to either beat Drew or beat CM Punk in the main event of WrestleMania for the world title. Let me explain. And you're thinking, CM Punk? Well, what's happening? In my mind, CM Punk beats Seth Rollins for the world championship, the world heavyweight championship, before we get to WrestleMania, and that's going to happen as well. I don't know when, I don't know how. It's just that happens in my mind in this reality that I've made in my brain. And then, at WrestleMania, Cody potentially turns heel and turns heel on either Drew McIntyre or CM Punk because he's so desperate to not only get his world title back or our world title back, but to not lose it this time. And he finally sinks into that hole of heel-dom and he stays there forever and we get evil Homelander Cody, and that's what's going to happen. And it's all going to happen. It's going to spark, the catalyst for this is going to be at the Royal Rumble. That's why it's my way too early prediction for the Royal Rumble. So not only will Cody join the 3-win Royal Rumble club, which is it's another record that WWE will probably want to be broken at some point, and Cody's looking like the guy to do it, obviously. So not only will that happen, but it'll also trigger the long-awaited heel turn of Cody Rhodes. You heard it here first. That is a way too early prediction for the WWE Royal Rumble in 2026. That is definitely going to happen, right? Yeah.
2026 Sorry, excuse me a second. Let me just check. Yeah, I would say there's probably a 72% chance that The Rock will appear at the Royal Rumble and screw everything up again.
Yeah!
Because he hasn't exactly had his critical acclaim moment with the Smashing Machine, has he? And, he's got enough money, which is a good job because that's lost a ton of cash as well. There's no Oscar forthcoming, and Hollywood still doesn't like him very much. And what happens when Hollywood doesn't like The Rock? He comes back to wrestling where he's like, yay! People like Adam Wilborn are like, yay! And everybody that hates WWE is like, yay! He's ruining everything. This is less of a sensitive issue to me in 2026 when I believe The Rock will once again darken our doors because, well, there's just less to mess up now. There was once a million ideas on the table and then The Rock would come in and just pull the tablecloth and they'll fall everywhere, make a mess. Not anymore, there's ideas, there's about 6 of them, Jesus! So we can mess those up if he wants. We've speculated on what the first Saudi Arabian WrestleMania will look like, and there's been sort of throwbacks to the original Vision 2030 shows where you had wrestlers who had sadly passed away being replaced by kind of lookalikes or sound-alikes or whatever. There was discussion on, could they already get John Cena out of retirement that hasn't yet happened? Could they bring Steve Austin back for another match, whatever? The Rock is obviously on that list and it feels very likely that he will indeed work the show. Not so much if the money's right, but if it just makes sense for WWE as a business to kind of keep that deal sweet and everything. This could probably be the start of it, couldn't it? He turns up, he wins if he wants. Maybe he changes the finish on the night so that he wins. Who knows?
Whatever.
It's kind of Rock's vibe. What's WrestleMania look like? I'll have a bit of that. Thanks very much. He could win it. He could be a surprise entrant. He could turn up at the very end of the Royal Rumble to raise the arm of the winner in another attempt to, buy somebody's soul or whatever the hell he wanted to do with Cody Rhodes when he was pushing for that heel turn. Maybe he'll get his wish. Maybe he'll kind of sow the seeds for Cody's heel turn if indeed they are going with Punk and Cody and one of them needs to lean heel going into WrestleMania. I just feel like The Rock will come and mess everything up. But like I say, nothing to worry about. There's less to mess up now. Everything's gone rubbish, so it's fine. Rock can do what he likes now. He's a proper final boss, isn't he? And then who knows? Maybe even it'll be to how they kind of split their Rumble out now, and it's there's Raw people, there's SmackDown people, there's NXT people. We know that he's the final boss of NXT, isn't he? So maybe he'll just say, I want to represent his daughter's brand and do right by them.
I don't know if it's a particularly bold prediction, but I'm thinking that by hook or by crook, Sami Zayn ends up challenging for a world title at WrestleMania 42. And how'd you get there? That's by winning the Royal Rumble, which takes place, of course, in 2026 from Saudi Arabia. Now, up until a month or two ago, this felt like a proper no-brainer for me. Sami winning the Rumble in Saudi, getting a huge reaction, set up a match against Seth Rollins at Mania 42 for the World Heavyweight title. What with Seth and the Vision, they've had plenty of tangles with Sami shortly after they formed, and a big part of that was the narrative of Sami Zayn has still never won a world title. So that would suggest to me that Sami does get a world title win, and when he does so by beating Seth Rollins. And with the Rumble in Saudi Arabia, that's a perfect time. One of those moments where everything lines up. The hugely popular Sami Zayn in front of some of his biggest supporters, finally winning a big one, as in the Rumble, to set him on his way to win the big one at Mania. Now, though, with WrestleMania 43 confirmed to be taking place in Saudi Arabia, it could always be that WWE decides, we're going to wait until Mania 43 to pull the trigger on a big Sami world title win. And also, recent months have seen it lined up, for me anyway, where it looks like CM Punk would be the one, naturally, the most likeliest to beat Seth Rollins for that world title. But still, I'm going to be a stubborn prick. I am going to stick by my original prediction. I'm going to go for Sami Zayn winning the 2026 Royal Rumble. And hey, maybe he goes after the WWE title. I mean, Sami is a SmackDown guy now, after all. Plus, Cody and Sami could be great. Or maybe it's Sami and Drew McIntyre. With McIntyre, who's somebody who's always very much in the WWE title picture, and someone again who so much has been made about Sami Zayn can never beat Drew McIntyre. I mean, like a total nerd, I looked this up, and Sami and Drew have been in 33 matches together, and Sami Zayn hasn't won a single one of those, and 12 of those matches have been televised one-on-one matches where, yep, Sami always comes up short. So now I've convinced myself, yeah, WrestleMania 42 is going to be Sami Zayn beating Drew McIntyre for the WWE title after Sami wins the Rumble, and we get a CM Punk versus Seth Rollins for the World Heavyweight title. And hey, Randy Orton and Cody Rhodes in a singles match that does not need a title. Bucket.
You might be shocked to hear this, so it's a good job you are sitting down, Adam Wilborn. I've got a bit of a negative slant on this, right? If you look at what was happening in WWE a short few months ago, like that spring post-Mania season where, under Levesque at least, they start to really think with like the long-term view. Obviously stuff this year has been retconned, the John Cena heel turn, but broadly speaking, I think Levesque would like to start really planting those seeds early. I believe he was doing that, and I don't want to say plans changed, pal, but it looks kind of like certain plans have changed. So cast your mind back to spring, right? It's after WrestleMania, the building stuff quite slowly and deliberately in his customary slow burn style. Too bloody slow, if anything, right? Sami Zayn looked like he was getting that very slow big push. He'd been talking about the world title, his inability to have won it to that point quite a lot on Raw. Those were clues, those were indications. Meanwhile, at the same time, they looked like they were positioning Bron Breakker as the Batista. If anything, I thought he was well ahead of where Batista was in 2002, 2003. But ultimately, that's where they were going with it. It was pretty much the archetype of the role. Also, you had Jacob Fatu getting his big moment at, what was it, Money in the Bank? That looked like the rocket was strapped to him there and then. You fast forward a little bit, and you thought they were the potential Rumble winners. Like, you know, those picks. Sami Zayn has won the United States title in a development that, I don't want to say came out of nowhere, but I expected him to be winning the world title in 2026, and he still might, but he seems to have been... The Karrion Kross program was remarkably dull, and it kind of cooled him off, and now he feels right, for better or worse, in that upper mid-card right now. Bron Breakker is where he was. There doesn't seem to be much progression there. They don't seem to have given him that marquee singles win. And Jacob Fatu, they've handled him disastrously, in my opinion, considering where he was, where people expected him to be. Those teasers with Bron Breakker, the company rhetoric when they give the state media those fluff pieces of like, oh, we've got big things in store for such and such a wrestler. It doesn't really feel like Jacob Fatu's headlining WrestleMania 42. It really, really doesn't. I think Brock Lesnar's winning this thing. I think that they've brought him back. He's defeated John Cena. They don't bring Brock in to lose very often. Maybe at the end. I know he did Cody in the last time we saw him full time. I reckon like Brock loves Saudi loves Brock, the Rumble's in Saudi, all the other picks as I've just mentioned that were felt like they're the next wave, if you like, of WWE stars after Cody, Punk, Gunther. Doesn't look like they're in position to do that, really, to supplant them or even rival them at this point. They've pressed the Lesnar button. I think they'll press it again. Sorry.